President Biden is preparing to give remarks this afternoon on the push to increase vaccinations both in the U.S. and around the world. An ABC News analysis of CDC data actually shows every state in the country has reported an increase in the average number of first doses administered in the last 3 weeks. And the national rate of Americans receiving their first dose is up by more than 73%. For more on this, I'd like to bring in infectious diseases specialist at South Shore Health, Dr. Simone Wilds, and ABC News political director Rick Klein. Thank you both for being here. Rick, let's start with you. What can we expect to hear from President Biden later today?
Well, what I'm struck by is how the White House is trying to couch this now as a responsibility of state and local authorities to try to partake of the options that are out there. I frankly get a sense of weariness at the White House and continuing to say, get the vaccine, get the vaccine. They're frustrated by the failures of local leaders and calling out some Republican leaders in particular who've been slow off the blocks. And I think tellingly, the White House continuing to rule out the idea of shutdowns, trying to say that this is still something that is more of a regional problem than a national problem. Despite the headlines that have been flowing now for some time. So they're trying to get whatever information they can and whatever resources they can to the right people, somewhat heartened by the reported uptick in vaccinations in certain regions of the country, but a palpable sense of frustration that we are where we are less than a month after July 4th and that time that the president said we'd have a summer of celebration. It certainly doesn't feel like that today.
And Dr. Wild, 70% of U.S. adults now have at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. But at the same time, this ABC News analysis shows 91% of Americans are living in a community with high or substantial transmission. So where does the U.S. stand overall in this fight against COVID-19?
Great question. I will say that we have made significant progress with COVID-19 compared to when we started this a few months ago. But we still have a long way to go, especially in the groups that have decided that they're not going to be vaccinated. I think we can really change the trajectory of this if we can encourage those people who need to get vaccinated to do so as quickly as possible, because we see the impact of the Delta variant right now creating havoc in pretty much all states across the country.
And Rick, it was only a few months ago that the CDC said that people who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 could actually resume activities without wearing masks or physical distancing. And now they reverse that almost entirely. And just on July 4th, Biden was celebrating, quote unquote, independence from the virus. So how are Americans reacting now, do you think, to both the CDC and to President Biden's change in messaging?
I think there's a lot of confusion, and a lot of the confusion is warranted. Now, the disease is confusing, and obviously the Delta variant poses a new and significant threat. But by the same calculation, the guidance that was provided to vaccinated Americans that they would not have to wear masks was actually a useful piece of information coming from the federal government. Some people thought it was coming actually too late. And what we've heard from some elected officials on the Republican side is that it's this kind of mixed messaging that might discourage vaccinations if people don't see that as a ticket to freedom. That said, the breakthrough infections are a new twist. And to see even Senator Lindsey Graham, the latest, the person to say that he was vaccinated and still got COVID-19, we're seeing reports of it scattered across the country. Even if it is relatively unusual, it is happening. And of course, it doesn't protect against transmission for people that are unvaccinated, children or people with pre-existing conditions or other kind of objections to getting the vaccine. So this is a tough spot politically because the country is not in a place where it wants to go back. And I think that recognition is there at the White House when they rule out further shutdowns. There is a potential conflict there with the science. The president has said he'll follow the science, but we've seen the science shift, we've seen the science adjust, and we've seen even this kind of guidance provided to Americans. It's confusing at times, and in this case, it's gone backwards.
And Dr. Wiles, according to HHS data, nearly 56,000 patients are currently hospitalized with COVID-19 across the country. That's the highest number since February. So how bad should we expect this to get, and how quickly can a boost in vaccination rates help that?
Well, as you've said, across the country, we're seeing increase in cases. And I must say that the states that have the lowest vaccination rates are where we see those that are hardest hit, Florida and Texas, just to name a few. I think, we anticipate that we're going to get breakthrough cases, but the ones that, require hospitalization need to be on a ventilator, or the unvaccinated group. and again, encourage that group get vaccinated. I am hoping that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're hoping that things will plateau. I mean, if we look at the data from the UK, we've seen that cases have started to decrease. I'm hoping that in the US, we will see our numbers trending down as we follow the new guidelines that the CDC has said with regards to masking when we're indoors. So hoping in the next 2-3 weeks that things will start to trend downward.
And Rick, back to the politics. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy out there tweeting now saying that Republicans have been warning against vaccine passports for months. Leave it to New York Democrats to lead such a blatant abuse of power. Vaccine passports are un-American, period. Republicans will oppose any attempt to expand such a disastrous policy. What's your reaction to this?
Well, the White House was asked about this, and from the president's position is that there will not be vaccine passports. They're leaving it to localities, cities and towns, and also private businesses to set their own regulations. There are several states that have banned the idea. Texas and Florida, for instance, have banned the idea of even asking about vaccination status from any public institution. So this is a major culture clash that's developing, and of course, it does come up against the science. You can understand why people might make a decision based on where they live right now to require vaccination or proof of vaccination to partake of certain services, to engage in public activities in certain ways. It does not sit well with a good portion of the country. That's where we stand, similar to the hesitancy we've seen around masks early on, around vaccines in some cases. And in this case, the idea of having to show status is a cultural touchstone. And it's something that Republicans view as a powerful message that they can push forward on. And the White House, I think, is wary of it. And that's why they're trying to keep a little bit of arm's length between themselves and cities like New York that are moving in that direction.
Our political director, Rick Klein, and also Dr. Simone Wilds, thank you both so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.